It's an interesting one because they all change, all the characters change, and kind of evolve within their own world. So I think from like day one, if we were going to go episode 1, Alberto has some pretty similar traits to Simon.
Yeah.
He's much more popular. He's much cooler than Simon is. But I'd say he is the most similar at that point in episode 1, because I mean, I don't have any angel blood, so I'm not that similar to Jace, and I don't use swords, and I've never seen a demon before, so I am not that similar to him in that way. But I think Alberto is probably the closest.
I must say though, everybody is extremely well cast in their characters. Everybody really has embodied, whether or not they did from the beginning, everybody has come to embody their characters, and I see it in everyone who's hanging out. It makes it fun to read the books now, because I read the books and I see Dom as Jace, and I see Harry as Magnus, and Matt as Alec, and all the rest of the characters. It's a neat twist.
You mentioned the books that did you mean
Yes and no. I read the first one, and I've actually done a young adult interpretation before. I did a movie called Vampire Academy, and I did the same thing. I only read the first one, and the reason is, and it's completely different for everyone. Everyone behaves in a different way, and it's about their processes and actor more than anything. But for me, I had to understand the world and to understand who Jace was and what runes are and why we fight demons and what different kinds of demons there are and what the swords are made out of and why we wear black leather. Because that was a big thing for me. I was like, why soldiers fight this? It couldn't be anything less appropriate in my head, but it's explained in the books. So for me, that was important, but from kind of there on, I don't want to know where Jace goes. I don't want to know where this world goes, because I get that in the scripts, and I read that for the first time in the scripts, and I don't want to confuse those two worlds in my head where I read a script, like, you know, we read episode 13, and I see how the season ends, and we loosely based it on book 1 is season 1. But I don't want to get to the end of 13 and be like, oh, that's not how the book ended. That's not how that happened. So for me, it was much more important that, like, I'm an actor. So this stimulus comes from directly where it's coming from. So it's coming from ABC Family, and it's coming from the writers' room in LA, and that is my stimulus. But the first book was an amazing start for me, because it was like half of my work had already been done for me. This character had already been developed, and I've put in tweaks that Jace has. Jace is always playing with his stele. He has like a nervous tic, and that's in the show because it's in the books. It's not necessarily written in the scripts, but it's in the books.
For me, I took a different path. I dove right into the books and tried to read as many as I could, as quickly as I could while we were shooting. I ended up having to take a pause because scripts were coming in and I was starting to confuse the two stories. But for me, it's nice to see where Clary goes and have that information so that I can inform where she is now. And it helps to see the end so I can know what the arc will be.
For your characters this season, what would you say is the biggest internal conflict?
Conflict? There's so many.
There are a few, yeah.
There are quite a few.
Parentage?
Yeah,
is a big
for
one.
Both of us.
Both of us. Jace goes through, and I think it's Clary's fault completely, but Jace goes through, almost everything is Clary's fault. Everything was fine before Clary turned up. But Jace was in a very good place in his life. He was good at his job. He was a good Shadowhunter. He was respected within the world. He had best friends. He had family. He had people who loved him, and he was happy with where he was. And then Clary turns up, and his world, the carpet is pulled out from under who he is, and everything changes for him. So this, very quickly you start to see that this arrogance and this confidence he has is shaken at its core. So for me, it was like character traits that started to change in Jace, like who Jace was as a person or a Nephilim or whatever, quickly became kind of changed because he had this new thing in his world that was completely unknown.
And I mean, Clary from the beginning has everything taken away from her. From the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show, everything she knows, everything she loves, her entire world was turned upside down and changed. And from that point, she really has to fight her way back from the ashes and find some kind of strength within her to overcome everything that's happened. But she's lucky to have people like Jace and Simon and all of the other Shadowhunters around her to show her the way and to guide her through all of the internal conflicts.
Last question, sorry.
5 words. Like last time I was here, it was 3 words, and even that was tough to think of. Jace is confident, arrogant, snarky, vulnerable, and vicious at times.
Clary is strong, vulnerable, selfish, loving, and stubborn.
Great.
Thank you so much.